Alex Vanderswan as the next person who would be criminally charged in the Robert Mueller special counsel investigation bingo game. Did you have a square marked Alex Vanderswan? Alex Vanderswan. Alex Vanderswan? Alex Vanderswan. Alex Vanderswan was really not on anybody's bingo card. Alex Vanderswan, who nobody had ever heard of before today.
Alex Vanderswan. He came, he saw, he checked out his hair.
By the way, what a nice picture that is. Look at that. I'd love to watch that guy speak. Oh, boy. Let's see. I try like hell to hide that bald spot, folks. I work harder. Doesn't look bad. Hey, we're hanging in. We're hanging in.
It's amazing. That's our president. How did this happen? How did this happen? All right. But he turned insults about his golden mane into a golden moment. And you know, it's hard to rip him on his locks when he's just better at it than you are. So on Friday at CPAC, President Trump touched on pretty much everything, talking like your rich uncle who simply doesn't give two or three. You be the judge of how many he doesn't give. My favorite part, when he explained plainly why people do lousy in midterm elections.
What happens is you fight so hard to win the presidency. You fight, fight, fight. And now only 2 years. That's a very short period. And by the time you start campaigning, it's a year. And now you got to go and fight again. But you just won. So nobody has that same drive that they had. So you end up not doing that well because the other side is going, they're crazed. And by the way, they're crazed anyway, these people. They are really crazed.
Try to remember, has anyone ever done that before? It's the best election advice I've ever heard. And of course, any Trump speech wouldn't be complete without an honest self-assessment.
My administration, I think, has had the most successful first year in the history of the presidency. I really believe that. I really
believe it. You know, always point to a guy in the audience after you make a good point. People love it. About as much as they love digs at the media and, of course, you know who.
We have a very crooked media. We had a crooked candidate, too, by the way. But we have a very, very crooked media.
All right. And just to make sure no one felt left out, Trump made sure to call out walking driftwood sculpture, John Kerry.
If somebody said death to America while I'm signing an agreement and I'm president, I immediately say, what's going on here, folks? I'm not signing. What's going on? They just kept going. Kerry. Kerry may be the worst negotiator I've ever seen.
The worst. Everything's the worst. Or a disgrace. Finally, if there was any doubt about the border wall, he got right to the point.
Don't worry, you're getting the wall. Don't worry, okay? I heard some.
You know, if Donald Trump is Van Halen, then Build the Wall is his Hot for Teacher. But you got to ask yourself, why is this so entertaining and so refreshing? I mean, sure, it's totally populist, filled with red meat galore, with obvious go-to applause lines for a ready-made audience. But there's more to it than that. Trump's good at taking slings and arrows directed at him and then turning them into armor. And in a world where the left is heading straight into the humorless void of identity politics, where all jokes go to die, we have a guy charging in the opposite direction into the other world known as fun. He's also an historical first. I call it an entertainer-in-chief. He wanted two things in life: to host a TV show where he could talk about stuff, but also be president. At 71, he managed to combine both. No wonder he's having a ball. And that's my final point. He is having a ball, and maybe so should you, for now. Let's welcome tonight's guest. He is so tough, a bed of nails sleeps on him. Retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel and Fox News contributor Alan West. She is so bright, lighthouses call her for advice. The Federalist staff writer, Bree Payton. And there aren't enough tissues for all of her issues. National Review reporter, Kat Tim Fitzoker. And here is an interesting fact. He doesn't own a ladder. Former bodyguard and my massive sidekick, Tyrus. Colonel West, what impressed you most about his CPAC speech? Any highlights for you?
Well, yeah, I think the most important thing, if you've ever read Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, and he always talks about how you can use ridicule against your political opposition. And you're absolutely right. This guy, no matter what you throw at him, he takes it and turns it back against them. And they're completely frustrated, as if there's nothing that we can say or do that gets under this guy's skin. Mm-hmm. And so when you look at a person that understands entertainment, he is his best public relations firm, and I think he just had fun at CPAC. He went out there and he told his story.
Yes, he did have fun. But you know, Bree, Colonel West makes a good point about like it's always the left that's kind of like able to insult, and finally we have like, you know, Triumph the insult dog as president.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think my favorite, speaking of insults, I think my favorite part was when he called the Democrats out for hating freedom. And I think if there's anything we could learn from the past 8 years, it's that they do that. Or as soon as they get in power, I mean, right now in San Francisco, which is a super leftist commie city. I mean, I'm from California. I know how it is over there, right?
Right.
And they're going after a crisis pregnancy center because their website ends up on Google at times when they don't like.
Right.
Okay. So this is the kind of thing we're dealing with.
Yeah.
And he's calling them out for that. And, you know, I think if the shoe fits, wear it. It's obvious that Democrats want us all to be miserable, and he's just speaking the truth.
Yeah, he just doesn't care, Kat, about any. He even said before he did that snake poem that I know that you loved, that he says, I know people aren't going to like this, but I don't care if they don't like it. You know, I believe that he could be very sloppy when things he says, but if he's right on a big thing, we forgive him for kind of the sloppy language at times.
First of all, let me let you on a little inside joke. Greg said, know that I love, because I don't love the poem. But I already know that he doesn't care what I think. So.
Yes. I painted you into a corner.
Right, absolutely. This was just a classic Trump to the base speech.
Right.
It had everything. It had the wall. He managed to throw in a crooked Hillary there, pretty much.
Yes,
that took some talent.
Yes.
Talking about immigration, talking about the economy, and then of course doing the thing where he stops and leans to the side and waits for people to clap for him.
Yeah.
Which I don't see. I did it and it didn't work for me. So
No.
I have to. Well, it did, but he's able to do it. Sometimes he just starts clapping for himself, too. I'm doing it right now, and it doesn't work for me either. So he's really good at getting applause, and that's one thing that I really envy about him, whether or not he has a bald spot.
Yes. You know, Tyrus, I bet he wishes he could do that every week. He seems to enjoy it, be his thing.
But he does do that every week.
Yeah.
And I think that's the part that the super left and the CNN building has got to have a late night meetings. Like, what do we got? He cheats on his wife. He's a Russian spy. None of that works. He doesn't care. He eats at McDonald's and he doesn't care. Did he eat a baby? Can we see if he ate a baby? And he probably would say, it was the best baby I ever had. And those of us who haven't had a baby should really try it.
I don't know what to make of that. I will say this. What you're talking about, the fact that he doesn't care, it makes it harder for comedians to even deal with him because it doesn't bother. It might have bothered him before.
You know what? You've been in that. I've been in that relationship where she don't care anymore, and you try to say things to hurt her feelings, and she don't care. That hurt. When you said that, like when she gets home and tell her, "You're always late. You're irresponsible," and she goes, "Mm-hmm." But I try to. Now it hurts me because it devalues my fight.
Works.
Yeah, see? Okay. Yeah. You got to throw it back on him.
Okay.
Well, he is the first entertainer in chief. It's an interesting thing, you know, that the ability to combine two life wishes into one thing is pretty amazing.
Well, the interesting thing is that, you know, you have normally had the typical Republican president or whatever that comes out and talks about all these policy things. The debt sucks.
Yeah. Deficits
suck. And everyone just sitting there like, I can't connect. I don't get it. But this guy, he brings people in because they find it funny. They find it engaging. And you know what? They're getting money in their pockets, too.
Yeah.
On top of that, it's a win-win situation.
That's
and
true.
then you trot out someone like a Keith Ellison or Nancy Pelosi or all those CNN folks, and they're Debbie Downers, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you see.
Yeah. All right. And that's an up point to T. Still to come, we'll discuss the president's meeting with those affected by gun violence. And later, Nancy Pelosi's got some border wall alternatives. Plus, a CNN reporter confronts an elderly Trump supporter. It's a
donation from the NRA in the future.
Your comments this week and those of our president have been pathetically weak.
But I want to explain to you why he would not.
And I want to be allowed the opportunity, which is why I am here. Let me answer the question. Let me answer the question. You can shout me down when I'm finished, but let me answer Emma's question. That's a huge... Wait a second. Wait a second.
You guys, if I can't hear her statement, I can't come up with a rebuttal.
I don't know, CNN. If booing and heckling helps create dialogue, why not hand out tomatoes, too? But you got what you wanted, a Jerry Springer spectacle that widens the divide, undoing any goodwill made earlier that day. Fact is, if you wanted more people to buy guns, that did the trick. By treating the guests like guilty parties, suddenly a law-abiding person is a killer by association. It's a pattern. The media grabs a hot issue and inflames it. Remember their police shootings narrative? The media slathered that issue with emotion and half-truths, creating a recursive rage spiral. The result, the police ended up pulling back, and crime jumped in some cities. And that somehow shocked the media. Meanwhile, witness the practical solutions coming from the White House and this House. Last week, we mentioned the Civil Tag, a database for madmen based on police, teachers, and students' testimony. If you're in that database, no guns, that's it. And clearly, some very important people heard what Tyrus said as well.
When 9/11 happened, the planes hit the towers, airports were changed forever. We got the TSA. Our children are getting hit. It's time to change the schools forever. And there is a population out there, and I checked, they didn't have the new stats out, but last year's stats was 4.3% unemployment for returning veterans in this country. That's 435,000 trained men who have eyes and ears. We need to have them at the schools. TSA needs to be at the schools. One way in, one way out.
Boy, do we need that. And we need it because we've learned of 3 failures so far. The FBI not responding to tips, the police not acting after many, many visits, officers not pursuing the madmen. No wonder Sheriff Israel deflected the wrath onto Dana Lash.
I understand you're standing up for the NRA, and I understand that's what you're supposed to do. But you just told this group of people that you are standing up for them. You're not standing up for them until you say, I want less weapons.
Amazing. But it was those errors that led to Trump's bluntness.
The teacher would have shot the hell out of him before he knew what happened.
Now, the media is going to smirk at that, but that's what you get after a paralysis of analysis. Rational solutions exist, but the media, clouded by their own bias, acts like they've never heard of them before. Instead, they poke fun of Trump's meeting notes. So in the end, compare Trump's meeting and CNN's show trial. Who emerges as the more objective name in news? Maybe CNN should have had more notes. Colonel West, you're obviously a veteran. You were a congressman in Parkland's district. You are also on the NRA board, so you are kind of like in the thick of this thing.
And I own 3 AR-15s.
Yeah, that's why I don't come by your house. what do you make of this compare? I mean, I felt that the White House meeting was cathartic, and then I got completely depressed and crushed when I watched the CNN event.
When I look at that CNN debate and I see Sheriff Israel, he's in a lot of trouble because now we have come to find out that the sheriff's deputy that was there to protect that student, understand there was one school resource officer for a school of 3,000. His whole duty is to protect those students, and he failed in his job. Now, what's the criteria to have a school resource officer in the Broward Sheriff's Office? Furthermore, I guarantee you that Sheriff Israel knew about that surveillance video last week, Wednesday. And why are we just now finding out about it?
What drives me crazy is that I think Sheriff Israel knew a lot of things at that town hall, and that's why he turned it onto Dana Lash, because there was also, I believe, that officer at the school also had been tipped off about this person before, which blows my mind. Tyrus, I swear after you made that suggestion last week, that I heard that suggestion almost verbatim all over the place about after 9/11.
Please send your checks to Tyrus. No, look, that's just a common sense thing. I would have hoped there would have been more people like, yeah, you know what? But here's the thing: if you don't want solutions, you want arguments, and that's pretty much what we learned this week. The mistake, like, here's a perfect, like the gun thing, and after what we have, people are attacking NRA like it's a 9-foot monster.
Yeah,
it's the people of the United States, and it's American citizens who are the NRA, not the people on the stage that are getting attacked that night. So you're attacking your own people. So we need to figure that out really quick, that's not the issue, yelling and screaming about guns. I am not a member of the NRA, but I will be joining, sir, ASAP, because I would like to be a part of that argument. But a motivated individual who decides he's going to kill someone or a group of people or a school or rape a woman, that motivated individual is going to accomplish a degree, however. Unmotivated individual, in this case, is the deputy who had at least 2 firearms and a shotgun in his car. None of those guns saved anybody because he was not motivated. Those guns could not float across the school and stop this person because the man who had those guns was unmotivated, lazy, and afraid. When you're a motivated human being in this country, you can do terrible things if that's your mindset. The only way we can stop that is by having teams of trained, motivated individuals to intercept you. Period. There's no other way about it.
And let me, you know, most people don't know who Stephen Williford is. Stephen Williford was the former NRA-trained weapons instructor who returned fire against the assailant at Sutherland Springs. And he did it with an AR-15. But it's so interesting to me that you never hear that type of story. That the failure of the United States Air Force and also the federal authorities that did not supply the information of that assailant who, number one, had a disarmable discharge from the Air Force, and number two, was convicted of domestic violence. And the person that saved that carnage was someone with an AR-15 trained through the NRA.
You know, and that's why I feel so strongly about this civil database. But I want to ask Kat, as a libertarian, would you budge a little on gun rights?
No.
No, that's what I thought.
Not at all. And watching that town hall, I can't help but think so many people are going to make the mistake of watching that and thinking that the audience there represents America. It does not represent America. There are still very many people in America who understand the Constitution, and they understand that the Second Amendment exists not just so we can protect ourselves, but also for protection of our liberty against a tyrannical government. And you can't forget that. And you can't let the left bully you or shame you or shout out you're a murderer at Dana and make you feel bad, and let us give that up because it's too important to give that up.
All right. Last word, Bree. What are your thoughts?
So my boss actually interviewed Dana about her experience, and she said that it was set up kind of like a WWE SmackDown. She had to walk in between. This is her account of what happened. So they had kind of like theme music for each of the panelists that were coming out, and they had to walk out like between the audience and sit out on stage, and it was like this whole thing. And you could read her full remarks over at thefederalist.com and listen to, you know, what she had to say about that. But you know, just the way that they set it up, it was very apparent that CNN was not about real solutions, as Tyra said. It was about creating this big, you know, smackdown on TV for ratings.
Yeah, you know, it was the least attractive thing besides a mob, is instigating a mob when you know it's because it's so easy to do. And it was like, the CNN, it cemented a divide that meant it to be defrosted. And I saw the defrost happening at that Trump event, and then I saw it being cemented again. And I believe people are inherently good until they're in a mob, and then when that mob gets going, anything can happen, and that's what scares me. We got to move on, but all right. Producer goes, please. Move on. Nancy Pelosi's awesome idea for securing the border. Just kidding, it won't secure anything. But we're going to talk about it anyway. It's going to be great.
Evacuate after a levee breach along the long Kankakee River. Final goodbyes are underway for the Reverend Billy Graham. Earlier today, his body was returned to his hometown of Charlotte, North Carolina. People lined the streets as the 130-mile procession passed. It's all part of week-long services to honor the man known as America's pastor. Funeral services are next week. I'm Robert Gray. Now back to the Greg Gutfeld Show.
She's the former House Speaker, and her ideas couldn't be weaker. I speak of Nancy Pelosi, who on Tuesday listed a number of measures she thinks could curb illegal immigration.
Let's sit down and talk this through and see what makes sense, not some commitment to a promise that we're going to build a wall and Mexico is going to pay for it. That's never going to happen. But let's talk about where a more serious structure might be necessary, where fencing will do, where mowing the grass so that people can't be smuggled through the grass, and that's something about levees, technology, personnel.
Mowing the grass. That's a policy plank I can get behind. What's next? Position lemonade stands on the Rio Grande. Make some extra money for the kids. But maybe this mow the grass advice is the kind of battle cry that Democrats need to win big in 2018. It seems to be catching on. Just listen to this chant from one of her own latest town halls.
Mow the grass! Mow the grass! Mow the grass!
I'm telling you, it's their build the wall. I think there might even have some better ones.
Hell no, we will mow! Hell no, we will mow! Hell no, we will mow!
I don't think Pelosi expected her dumb idea to catch on so well.
What do we want? Clippings! What do we want them? Now! What do we want? Clippings! What do we want them? Now!
We're going to pound this joke into the ground. All right. Bree, I thought it was interesting that she acknowledged that illegal things happen on the border, and then she just went off the rails.
Yeah, shocker.
Yes.
Nancy Pelosi went off the rails. She's like your blind 90-year-old grandmother trying to use Facebook, but she's like that with everything. You know what I mean? Like just a few weeks ago, she was like, paychecks, how do they work? And here she is, border walls, mowing grass. She doesn't know how any of these things works, and this is probably my favorite thing that she does.
Yes, Kat, is this cliched of me to say that this is a perfect comparison of Democrats to Republican, like the alpha versus the beta? Like you have Republicans going, build a wall, and Dems are going, mow the grass. Is that fair? The libertarian thing would be...
I've got to give her some credit.
Yes.
Because I could not think of an idea that stupid if I thought all day long. I'm serious. I'm not a fan of the wall.
No.
I don't think the wall is going to happen because there just won't be enough votes for the wall. They're just not. Fences will probably be what would happen. I have the solution of removing the welfare incentive so we could save money twice.
Oh, good point.
That's what I would prefer to do, but...
Instead of the wall, you go to the wallette.
Yeah.
We'll be right back. No, I'm kidding. All right, Tyrus, I think, okay, this is an interesting point. I think it's weird she associates cutting the lawn with Mexico. Now, if she were Republican, she would be branded a racist for linking Mexico to lawn care because she probably sees Mexico as cheap labor for her Californian estate.
Good luck with that question.
Oh, no, I got this. I ain't no damn diva. I can handle this stuff. First of all, I think, has she ever been to the border through California and Arizona? It's a desert, homie. There's not a whole lot of grass. It's hot as hell, and it's not too hard to see somebody crawling on the hot-ass ground. So that's one. And two, yeah, if I'm trying to think who I can put this on, somebody I like. If John McCain, who I love to death, came out and said, let's mow lawns.
Yes.
That'd be it for McCain. That'd be it.
No, it would be.
That would be it. He would there be like, he's telling them to cut grass.
Yeah, no, that's exactly.
You know, and it's, she has, but forget all that. I said it time and time again. Can you put a close-up? Democratic Party, stop talking. Deplorables, crumbs.
Indictment that some pro and anti-Trump rallies were organized by the Russians and that Americans unwittingly participated, meaning they went, but they didn't know Russians were behind the events. We know this. Again, that's according to the federal indictment. So a Trump supporter's house and hounds her for promoting an event on Facebook that turns out was put on by the Russians.
They were not Russians. I don't go with the Russians.
That group was Russian.
I have nothing to do with the Russians.
Well, apparently you did.
No.
Maybe you didn't know it, but you did.
Those people that were with me were all Trump supporters. Very, very much so.
And all apparently following the direction of groups that were associated with Russians who were actually infiltrated.
BS. And please report that. I don't believe that. That's I know all the people that were with me, okay? They were at my meetings. They're all Trump supporters, okay?
Mm-hmm. But did you realize that you guys were in communication electronically with Russians?
Not me.
Oh my, what an Hey, bro, McCarthy, take it down a notch. Anyway, dude, your network, CNN, breathlessly covered the anti-Trump rallies that were held after the 2016 election. And guess who organized them? It wasn't Menudo. So instead of pointing fingers at the Russians who did all this, we're pointing fingers at each other, which is exactly what the Russians want. I just wish Russia would spend less time in our business and more time keeping their tanks upright. I'm not too worried about the Russians. Colonel West, shouldn't CNN need to go on when you get too involved in work, you need to go take a, what do you call a sabbatical? Yeah. Shouldn't the entire network take a sabbatical, go on a Carnival cruise?
Yeah. One of those Carnival cruises where the engine, goes kaput and they're just stuck out at sea. And we should not send any resources or anything to get them back in. Just leave them out there. It's so interesting to me listening to this because the person that organizes these women's marches by the name of Linda Sarsour.
Of course.
Linda Sarsour called for jihad against the White House.
Right.
But nothing is said about that. Or the fact that the only people that have done any collusion, any ties with the Russians, Christopher Steele, Fusion GPS, Bruce Orr, Hillary Clinton's campaign, and the DNC. But yet they want to go and harass some lady out there.
It's incredible. Okay, Kat, I know this. You hate this guy. Well, you don't know him. Maybe you'd get to know him and you might like him. I'm thinking a new show called Ambush with CNN. They just show up at a citizen's house and they chastise them on recycling and a non-electric car, and maybe it has a Trump bumper sticker.
Right. Leave the little old lady trying to use the internet alone. Earlier that day, she probably got all excited because she had a pop-up on her computer telling her she won a free cruise to Aruba. She probably actually reprised those emails like, oh, honey, I have a rich relative in West Africa. He said he's going to send me $1 million. All I have to do is put in all my checking information. She's very old and very nice, and at least she knows how to use the internet, which a lot of grandmas don't. Give her a break. Leave her alone.
All right. Bree, again, I think this could be a good TV show. Brian Stelter, who is the nation's hall monitor, could host it. We go now to, I don't know, Allentown, Pennsylvania, where we believe somebody is watching porn.
You know, I mean, usually the things that bother you most in other people are things that are problems with yourself.
Yes.
And in this case, this is so as you pointed out earlier, CNN was the one that was pushing the, you know, Russia fake news troll mob stuff that they wanted to do. And then they find this one lady who's like did the same thing that they did to a way lesser degree, and they're going wild and chasing after her.
Yeah.
You know, and I think honestly, CNN is totally fine with licking Putin's boots, because I agree with you that this is what Russia wants. Russia wants us to question our electoral system and question one another and go after one another like that. And I think that they're completely happy to lick Putin's boots if it means that they get to throw a cheap shot at Trump supporters.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Tyrus, last word to you.
I wish he would have came to my door. So let me see if I got this straight. This breaking news was to her and her 5 friends who were playing cribbage and decided to go online and fill out a survey saying that they supported the president, candidate Trump at the time.
Yeah.
That's your story.
Yeah.
Does it really matter where it came from?
Yeah.
They were. Go call Facebook. How could you let this happen? These women are playing cribbage or canasta, whatever they do, and you allowed Russians to send information to the computer. Go after Facebook. Go after Google. Don't after the people that they saw information that they supported and that they believed in and was provided, because Russia was on everybody's team.
Yeah.
That was the thing. Everybody's team. They were sending all kinds of stuff out. So he probably belonged to something. Probably that online dating app he was on before he got there was probably by them. So he ain't so clean either.
Yeah.
I guarantee. Let's check your computer history, bruh.
Yeah. Sled coach quit. She took the team sled with her. Red Stripe, I think they got him a new sled. Anyway. Then there was Elizabeth Swaney, the U.S.-born skier who competed for Hungary in the women's freestyle halfpipe without attempting a single trick. She gamed the system, competing in events where she had to finish in the top 30, but since most had less than 30 competitors, all she had to do was not fall. That's genius. Then, using her grandparents' Hungarian citizenship, she landed on Team Hungary. And finally, Norway took home the most overall medals, though it's still my second favorite Norwegian sports accomplishment after this.
Thank you, Norway!
That should be an Olympic event. Anyway, for more on this, we go live to South Korea. Apparently, we sent our newest correspondent, Mike Van Michels, to the games to give us a proper send-off. Mike, I had no idea that you were there.
There's a lot you don't know about me, Greg. Goodbye forever.
Well, that was abrupt. Hope he's okay. I'm sure he's fine. All right, impressions of the Olympics. What are your thoughts? Good, bad, indifferent?
No.
No?
I was stationed in Korea back in '95. I really don't want to remember being in Korea. So
yes.
Didn't watch, didn't tune in. It's college basketball season, folks.
Yeah.
And that's my focus. College hoops. Good American sport.
Kat, if you had to compete, what event would you like to compete in? You can make one up if you like.
I wouldn't.
No.
I couldn't handle it, but I really did like that one skier from the Hungarian skier.
Yes.
Because she really was an inspiration to us all, that you can just go to work and do a mediocre job and still rise to the top.
That is true. That is true. And all you got to do is call Ancestry.com.
Yeah.
Find a relative and match that relative to the weakest country you can. And then you can become an Olympic athlete, much like me, Tyrus. I see myself as an Olympic athlete who chose a different direction.
You're a good curling guy. I mean, you'd have been excellent curling. You're low center of gravity when you.
I'm good with a broom.
Yeah, you got okay, but yeah, I like curling because of Hard Knocks South, my weightlifting club. We all draw teams. I got Japan this year. We didn't go too well.
Yeah.
But you know, I like the curling thing. But here's the thing, and you hit it right on the head. We've got our own sports now. The Olympics is not the same thing. It's just people just, especially winter, it's cold. Like, I'm not going out in the snow. Kiss my ass. I'm going to sit at home and watch. We just don't. The Olympics were great when there was superpowers and there was all this competition for technology and this, but we've passed all that. So it's really like backyard games, kind of like people just. No one's really. That's why it's on 2, 3 in the morning.
Well,
I mean, I don't know one person who was like, I'm calling in sick because I'm not missing the Louvre tonight.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's all. Yeah, it's like what is it? A 14-hour time difference?
Mm-hmm.
I just made that up.
Don't, you know,
Bree, it's hard also to get it. It's not the Olympics' fault because we have Trump sports now. Trump sports is 24/7. You wake up every morning. There's all these events, and you can. They're both sides to Trump sports. There are people shouting, "Yeah!" There's other going, "Ooh." They're comparing him to Hitler. He's like he's our world power and their world power.
Yeah, so I actually disagree with, I think, everyone on this panel when it comes to the Winter Olympics. They're my favorite Olympics, and I actually love watching figure skating. I wanted to be a figure skater when I was little. Yeah, I took figure skating classes, mostly for the outfits, but I was really bad at it and learned very quickly that being 5'10" doesn't work out when you're trying to do figure skating. But anyway, I love the Winter Olympics. I think that's so fun to watch. My favorite story was the story you mentioned about the Red Stripe Beer Company coming in the clutch moment and providing a new bobsled to the bobsledding team. You know, next time someone tries to tell me that beer won't fix my problems, I'll point to that story.
That is true. That is true. Alcohol.
What was that airport like? The angry bobsled coach dragging the sled through customs. That must have been
we're going to have to check that. Stick around. Final thoughts up next.